Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 28th day of January, 2019. So, it's Monday. Numerology today is a 1, or new beginnings. It also has to do with the self and self-identity and all of that. So maybe issues of identity are in focus for everyone today. Looks like federal workers will be going back to work, though, so that's a plus. With any luck, they'll get paid here sooner than later, like today, maybe. Hopefully some folks were staying there over the weekend to get all that taken care of for people, because people have suffered enough, I think. Given that the guy in the Oval Office seems to be lying all the time, he's been apparently talking of late. I actually have not heard him say these words because I deliberately do not listen to him any more than maybe a short clip on the news or something. And even that I have a hard time with. But he's been talking about and describing women that are being trafficked and what all that looks like. And I'm not going to repeat the words because, I suppose, it's not that something like that couldn't happen in the world. I'm sure it does. But trafficking experts are saying no. They're shaking their heads going, what? And supposedly all these statistics that he gave out this weekend, none of them are true. So you have to ask yourself, why is he doing this? Does he lie simply to have something to say, to seem important? Why is he doing it? Someone said on Twitter, maybe someone needs to tell him that these kinds of comments trigger survivors. But I said, well, I think he already knows that. And I think it's one of the reasons why he's doing it. Or could be, anyway. We can't, lose sight of that possibility. If you're a survivor, you know what I'm talking about. For him to go on and on like he's doing and to have the history that he has with women, something's going on there. It could just be that he's talking to his base, who's all concerned about, human trafficking, and rightly so, and pedophilia and all of that. But at the end, I wrote a post on the weekend called, Remember Who He's Talking To? I did that on the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. I talked about it there. We're in such a weird quandary, aren't we, as survivors, to have to deal with this man on a daily basis and to listen to the stuff that comes out of his mouth. He was out there to announce that the government was back open, and they ran a teleprompter, and then every time he'd start riffing off script, which this was part of it, evidently, according to my husband. And then, of course, he continued on doing it this weekend, I guess, on Twitter. But they stopped the teleprompter when he goes off script. They just stop it. People reported that it would start again. Once he'd go back on script, then the teleprompter would again flow, right? Would again roll. Why go off script when you're talking about reopening the government and giving people their paychecks? Why go off script to talk about this way when it isn't true? Why do it? Is he trying to punish people? What is he doing? This makes no sense. It really makes no sense. You've got empaths on Twitter talking to one another, trying to stay sane from all of this. This is awful. Whether you're an empath or an assault survivor of some kind, this is a difficult time right now for all of us. You know, the lies alone are more than I can bear. This is why I don't listen to him. I can't. I blocked him on Twitter. I don't see things unless, I see it in an article or something. That's about all I can deal with. Some days I can't even do that. To have the leader of a country lie, and now he's either talking about it or he's retweeting people that are anti-vaccination. You've got a measles outbreak right now here in Oregon and also in Clark County, Washington. And I'm not sure where else in Washington state, but I know it's here and I know it's up there. So, and we're, together. So it makes sense, traffic moves throughout both states. Oregonians work in Washington, Washingtonians work in Oregon. So, you're going to have transfer, right? Well, irrespective of how you feel about vaccinations, you may be somebody that's listening that says, no, I don't want to do that. Well, okay. But just understand that this whole herd thing that happens, it'll cover like 10% of the population or something that doesn't get vaccinated. We've kind of gone beyond that, apparently. That seems to be what's happening anyway. At least that seems to be the explanation for it. And now we have a president who seems to want to support all of that. Really? What's going on? Is he just throwing everything against the wall to satisfy his so-called base? Since he was, called out as a wimp for caving and opening the government and putting people back to work, something he never should have done to begin with. But it's not over, mind you. Another 3 weeks, we might be doing this again. So hopefully more indictments will come out. Maybe get him focused on something else instead of hurting the American people. So at least people are back to work, so that's a positive. And so we'll keep hoping that maybe that'll continue and that he won't call a state of emergency or whatever it is he's threatening to do. Yeah, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do that. It'll be tied up in the courts. It'll never happen. So he doesn't want to do that. But he likely will. So anyhow, I just wanted to say something about that. If anyone is feeling triggered by this, sometimes calling out somebody like this just eggs him on further. It gives him what he wants. It says, yes, I did it. I accomplished my task. If you let them know that they're hurting you. Sometimes it's all by design. So take care of yourself today and in the coming days as he continues this nonsense, these lies, this attempt at hurting people that are vulnerable and fragile. Because after 2 years plus, because you got to include the campaign as well, after all this time, a lot of us are very, very fragile and we can't take anymore. It'd be nice to give the man no mind, pay it no attention. We can't. We have to pay attention to this because he's doing things that are so harmful to this country and likely to the world. So, at least in my opinion. Anyhow, let's count 13 and see what we have for this Monday, this day of intuition and cycles and femininity and all kinds of things. So. Sometimes you just got to say something about what's going on. And I did. I wrote, I don't know, it's not all that long, but if as empaths or as survivors, if we can remember who it is he's talking to and not allow him that purchase within our hearts and within our souls and within our emotions, we're going to be a whole lot better off. I mean, just something to think about. He's not worth any of this. And in time, he won't be there. So this is going to go away. We just have to hang tight. We have to hang together. And we have to stay strong because this is difficult. So I pulled the Three of Pentacles, and I've done this. I pulled this one before. Basically, what you see here are you see two people that have come by, and they're watching this guy ply his craft, work his trade. He's a stonemason. You see a lot of this theme throughout the tarot cards, the traditional ones anyway, the Rider-Waite and all of those that are styled after the Rider-Waite. You see this type of Masonic type of influence, patriarchal type of influence. But basically, stonemasons were kind of, the creators of the world in a sense, because they created all of our structures initially, and at least the ones that were made of stone. And you see here the lovely archway, almost like a doorway into new experiences. Here it could mean they're coming and they're watching and they're saying, okay, I would like you to come and work for us, maybe. So maybe they're trying to hire him, or maybe just complimenting on his craft. You see the three, which can indicate mind, body, spirit alignment, which in order to do well in anything, you have to do that. So you can see how that sort of, you see threes throughout. You see the Three Pentacles, you see 3 points above that they sit within. See up here? You see here, here, and here. So there's 3. Three people. You've got 2 archways, one's implied. This top one would be implied. So in a sense, 3 doorways into more structure, more foundation, more security, wealth. That's typically what Pentacles is talking about. It's talking about our foundation, so money, wealth. It could be community, it could be society, anything that has to do with the mundane aspects of life. Let's draw another card, though, and see what else we get. I won't shuffle a whole lot since I shuffled a whole lot while I was talking, so. I'll have to do another one. It's the Knight of Swords. This is about passion, swift movement. It's about intellect. Swords is the air element, so it's intellect. But you can see movement here. You can tell by the horse is galloping. You can see the forward momentum. He's protecting what he owns, basically. He's protecting the legacy. That's why it's going toward the past. He's protecting what is. Let's do one more, though. And I'll just shuffle a bit like this instead of the other way. I want to look, though, before I do that, on the Knight of Swords. There's one thing I wrote down, and I can't remember what it was. Sometimes I get my knights a little bit... I get the wands mixed up with swords sometimes in terms of their energy, although I shouldn't. But in terms of the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands, they're very similar because you're talking about integrity, pure heart, courage. They can be domineering. The Knights are, other than, say, the Knight of Pentacles, maybe, and maybe the Knight of Cups, the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands have a dynamic and active presence to them that can be questionable. It either works for them or it works against them. So, but they're both active presences, and they're both unafraid of challenges. So you might be saying then that maybe this after protecting what's his, he then turns around and he works his trade, and that's another way of protecting our legacy is by just simply going to work every day. And now federal workers have that opportunity to do so. So maybe somebody stood up for them, and now he's back. They're back at work. You could look at it that way. But let's do one more card. But perhaps a conversation happened that needed to happen, and now things are going in a better direction. I don't know. Here we have the Five of Swords, so another sword card. And this one has always been sketchy to me because it's got the brown clouds in the sky. They're kind of strange looking. You've got the choppy sea behind. You've got one person over closest to the water is holding his head. He appears, just completely bereft. You've got two swords on the ground, three that are being held by another person who, if you look very closely, seems to be quite happy at the outcome. So you either had an argument and one survived and is picking up the spoils, basically, and the rest of them are just bereft. But clearly a change has happened and people are back to work. I don't know. I really don't know how else to see it. If somebody charged in and said, no, not going to do that. We're going to protect our legacy. Conversations were had. Looks like we've got some people that are pretty unhappy because they didn't win the day. But oh well, people are back to work. Occam's razor. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. But let's take a look at the rune, see what overall spirit message is going to have to say about all of this. I'm going to use my birch runes again today. Well, we have Vunyo, the happily ever after rune, rune of joy, the wish rune. People wished that things would settle down and calm down, and they did. So wisdom prevailed, maybe, or simply they put him between a rock and a hard place. Maybe it was Roger Stone's indictment. Who knows? Sure is odd, though, that the walls are closing in, and then suddenly change happens. That needs to happen. It's like, oh, see, I'm a good guy. Yeah, I saved you. Nope, Nancy Pelosi saved him. So here we go. But with Vunyo, it's the 8th rune of the Elder Futhark, and Vunyo is, what you're dealing there with is leadership. You're dealing with a level of harmony that understands the greater aspect of self, understands society, understands the community, understands the greater aspect of all of this that's going on. And was able to say, look, let's stop people from hurting, and then let's have a conversation. Why would you hold people hostage this way and affect them so deeply? I mean, you had the Commandant of the Coast Guard come out and give an impassioned speech. You had Chris Wray, FBI director, come out and give an impassioned speech about it. You had various former, I don't know if it was secretaries of state or chief of state, I don't remember who it was, but John Kelly signed off on it. I don't remember who they all were, but they all came out and wrote a letter and said, this isn't the way to do this. So you had pressure, right? And then finally, Nancy Pelosi just said, we're not going to talk to you, until you stop this. And so finally it stopped. Instead of slamming him for caving, how about praising him for finally coming to his senses and doing this? And quite frankly, I don't care how it happened. Even if it's just, out of self-preservation, I don't care. At least people are back to work. We'll figure out what the real reason was later. But right now, you have a lot of people enjoy today, don't you? Because they get to go back to work and they get to be paid for that job. But it took the presence of mind of people with a greater vision for what needs to happen in the country for that to even take place, because it surely isn't coming from the Oval Office or any of the people that work for this man. You had one guy, well, you had Wilbur Ross, who should just simply retire and not be there at all, who didn't understand why federal workers couldn't just go and take out a loan. Instead, they're having to go to food banks. Well, he didn't understand why. You had one idiot in the administration who suggested that, oh, well, at least this way they don't have to take their vacation pay. They get a free vacation, and they don't even have to take their vacation pay. They don't use their vacation time. They can't pay their bills. They're going to lose their home. They're going to lose their apartment. Federal workers lose their security clearance if their finances get funky. So no, I don't know what made him do it. I would think that it was likely the Roger Stone indictment, though. That's just my own cynical attitude, though. But I'll bet I'm not wrong. I'll bet that's part of it. So anyhow, thanks so much for coming by. If it's your first time, we're going to get through all this. And pretty soon the cards are just going to be about our basic day, instead of trying to figure out how we keep everyone together and functioning and alive and well and fed and clothed and housed and back to work. So I don't know. Eventually, though, this is going to stop. We're going to get back to life as normal, and we can start talking more about just stuff that's happening in our own personal life, But praise Goddess, they're back to work and they're going to get paid. So at least that part is over. So for now, anyhow, again, thanks for coming by. If it's your first time, click subscribe if you like. I'd love you to do that. If you've come back, you've been back here again and again, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I don't know, I wish I could give people better information here. A timetable when all this is going to be done, but we're dealing with somebody that doesn't live in the real world and who doesn't have a foundation from which to draw from. See, he doesn't have anything like that. And so he doesn't connect with the same energy the rest of us do, I don't think. It's the only answer that I can have here. He just doesn't, either he is so into the ego part of life that I can't reach there or something. But there's nothing that is anything other than predatory. And it's like trying to read vampiric energy with tarot cards. All I do is I just feel it, and I can tell you what I feel. I can't, and people are either going to think I'm exaggerating or I'm not, right? Or that I'm being honest or I'm not. The cards are what they are. I shuffle, I put them out there, the rune, I let them go through my fingers, I put the one out there. They are what they are, But if you're dealing with somebody that can't even connect with the same shared experience that we all have, then typically what I find is that these readings become less about us as individuals and more about this either drama that's going on or an individual that's causing it, that simply can't exist in the same shared universe as the rest of us. That's why this is such an upsetting thing, because you don't know how to deal with somebody like that. And the only thing you can do is not deal with him, is to remove him from the situation, because he's too dangerous to be there. Somebody like this is. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I suspect he'll be impeached. I expect he'll be indicted. I expect he'll go to prison. Whether any of that happens, who knows? His buddy Jeffrey sure didn't, did he? He got a sweetheart deal. And now the guy who did it, he's serving in the cabinet. He's a cabinet person. So, quid pro quo, reward, I don't know. So we hang in there, and eventually, as my mother used to say, this too shall pass. What we will all look like and when all that's over, I don't know. But this too shall pass. So, anyhow, I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll do this again, and we'll see if we can focus less on him and more on all of us, and maybe help guide our day. But in the meantime, if you're an empath, if you're an assault survivor of any kind, please take extra care right now. Turn off the TV, stay offline if you can. It's all going to be there for you. Limit it, take 5 minutes, scroll through the news, if you have a news reader, do it very quickly. These days, I tend to just look at headlines. I don't open anything up. That's one thing I've done to learn to protect myself from all of this, and it does help. Again, I blocked him on Twitter, so I don't see his tweets anymore. I'll see responses to them, and that's fine. But I don't want to see what he has to say anymore. It's just too much. And so hopefully before long, the nightmare will be over. But I just can't believe it started to begin with. So not with everything we knew about him. So anyhow, we'll see you tomorrow. Be good to yourself. Check out the blog. Oh, I wanted to remind you again, check out the blog. See if what I wrote resonates with you, particularly if you're a survivor. And I hope it helps. I don't know. We're all just doing the best we can right now. So anyhow, thanks so much for coming by. Be good to yourself, be good, particularly right now, and be good to other people. And blessed be.